thing. Brent Powell is wondering why he bothered to set his alarm and get up at this point. He's with the Mississippi House of Representatives, chairman of the House Energy Committee. Representative, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Dave.
Did you have any parachute pants?
I did not.
Okay. Would you like some?
No, thank you.
I can make you a deal.
I made fun of my buddies that had them. So
yeah. And you had the bandana thing and everything. Yes, it was a different time. It really was. Of course, back then, also, we had a price war going on in gas moving in the opposite direction. It was below $1 a gallon. If you remember that,
Yep.
those days are gone.
Long gone.
Yeah, we're getting reports on the text line around the state, 309 here, 299 there. About $3 seems to be the average right now.
That's what we're seeing right now. And as the price of crude keeps going up, it's gonna start flirting with $4 before it's over with, I'm afraid.
Yeah, probably before the end of the year, I would think.
I would think so. Yeah. Right now, the global market's just nuts right now. So.
Well, you had an interesting take on this. And wanted to have you on because it fits in with what I've been saying, is that we have fallen into the trap of having to have one specific thing to blame for anything that happens. And like many other things in this case, you can't just point to the Democratic Party or the Biden administration and say, this is all your fault. They're not helping.
Right.
But there are a lot of factors here.
It's a global market, and most people don't really want to understand that. They'd rather point at the Democrat Party. Now, they've got an all-out assault on the oil and gas industry, which is going to hurt us over time. They're shutting down the Arctic. They're shutting down the Gulf. And as those areas get shut down, there's less holes we can drill for the oil and gas. So over time, this will create a problem. The Keystone Pipeline wasn't going to come online until 2023. So none of that is the factor right now. Right now, it's OPEC and the pandemic. OPEC shut production down. So did the U.S. by a little bit because there was no demand. Now the demand's coming back. OPEC doesn't really want to raise the output, their production, because they want that price high. So right now you've got a global market. You've got a natural gas shortage in Europe, which is causing the power plants to start using fuel instead of natural gas. So all of that combined is what's causing this. And unfortunately, we're kind of stuck in the middle right now. So.
Well, and these are some of the same forces that are leading to shortages in a lot of things. In the stores, you're seeing bare shelves. We've seen a notification that from several different news outlets that you better go ahead and do your Christmas shopping early because toys are going to be scarce this year, if you can believe that, because of the supply chain problems. When we think supply chain, we think about getting it from point A to point B, but there's also just getting it to begin with, and that's part of our problem, I think.
I think so too. Well, let's back up on the supply chain. Part of that problem is truckers are not going to California, so you got those ships sitting there waiting on a new truck. I mean, if the trucks have to be 10 years or less old for it to even enter the California, and also they have to have a vaccine card with them. So I mean, that's part of the supply chain, and that is on the Democrats on that part of it.
Oh yeah. That's totally on the Biden administration and the California
Newsom, yeah, correct.
Democratic government in Newsom. And there's not much we could do about that, unfortunately. But these are all complex problems. And I guess as the chairman of the House Energy Committee, what in the heck can we do about it?
Not a lot, I'm afraid.
Now, I knew you were going to say that. I hated to ask, but that's just the way it is.
Buy it cheap when you can. Don't hoard it, but I mean, buy it cheap when you can. But it's going to happen, and until Russia and OPEC decide, okay, we've reached a threshold. Americans aren't going to pay over $4 a gallon in gas in Mississippi. I don't know what it is right now in California or New York, that sort of area. But they're going to reach that tipping point, and then they'll start easing it back. They're pumping about 400,000 barrels a day more, and they're going to continue to do that. They've just kind of turned the spigot down a little bit. Even if they turned it all the way up, Saudi Arabia, it has about 2 million barrels a day they can increase. In Russia, we don't really know everything about Russia, but they're saying about 1 million barrels. So 3 million barrels a day is not going to it's not going to ease it up right now. The U.S. production, we normally get about 13 billion barrels a day pulled. We're down to about 11 billion just because of the pandemic. Now, they'll slowly start increasing, but as new wells are not coming online, you're going to have that issue. Most of your oil and gas wells are going to be depleted by about 50% within a year. So as the backlog of not drilling continues, this could continue for a little while for us domestically.
So what you're saying is once we work past this part, which, as you said, and I believe you're right, is more to do with the pandemic and the demand and supply issues and how that affects the production. Once we start getting out of that, then we're going to start seeing the effects from what the Biden administration has done and the shutdown of new offshore leases, the shutdown of pipelines and everything else. What I'm hearing is this is not a problem that's going away quickly.
I don't believe so. I don't think we're going to get down to $1 gas again anytime soon, but if we can alleviate from getting any higher than it is right now, we'll be okay. Now, as the progressives keep wanting us to be solar and wind driven, it's just not going to happen. I mean, I'm not getting on a solar powered airplane. I can promise you that. So the production needs to happen. They need to allow us to get into the Arctic, to get into the Gulf, and get into federal lands out west, and get some drilling done just to meet the domestic needs. I'm not worried about global. We go through about 20 million barrels a day in the U.S. So even if we're pumping at 13 million, we're still having to import some. So I'd much rather see us get to production in the U.S. closer to 20 million. That way we're not relying on Saudi Arabia to artificially inflate the prices. So.
And back during the previous administration with President Trump, we did kind of reach that point where
we were getting better and better, and the forecast was looking better. The more production. I mean, it takes years for these things to come online. So even now they shut the Gulf down to say for new leases. Well, now we've got that time lapse. So let's say he shuts it down until Biden's gone. So we've got 3 years of no new leases. Those leases are going to take a year or two to even come online before you put a drill ship over the top of it to get it out. So we're creating a 3 to 4 year gap that we don't need to happen, and that's going to make us rely more and more on the OPEC and Russia for our fuel.
Well, and I think the lie was exposed about we need to go green and we're cutting back production to help save the environment when President Biden immediately after he shuts down our production turns around and looks at OPEC and says, hey, can you guys up production a little bit?
Yeah, that was kind of a slap in the face to U.S. producers, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, they weren't real happy with it, I wouldn't imagine. So.
No, I don't think any of us were happy with that. And that's one of the aspects of this that you can lay firmly at their feet and go, yeah, this is your fault.
That's correct. And one of the greenest energies, or I say cleanest energy uses we have right now is natural gas. Well, that's a byproduct of drilling for your oil rigs in most cases. So we're seeing a decrease in natural gas production because we're not drilling for new oil.
Now, is that going to lead to an increase in natural gas price?
And natural gas prices are about almost $6, where they used to be about $1.50. So yes, you're seeing that already. And like I said, Europe is having to switch their power plants over. So, ladies and gentlemen, your heating bill is going to go up this winter. Just prepare for it. If you run natural gas heat, it's going up by probably double.
Oh wow!
Yep. Wow. Well, I mean, we're going from $2 to $5. So I mean, that's
more than double. At that point. And like you said, and I just want to, emphasize this again, there's not much we can do to fix this.
Not right. Not in the immediate term, no. This is a long-term problem that we're running into. So, we could be sitting at this $3 threshold through next summer for sure.
Now, what does that do in terms of, say, for example, gas tax revenue for the state? Because if it starts getting high enough, people drive less, which means they're buying less, which means less taxes coming in, unless that's offset by the increase in price. What are your thoughts on that? Is that going to have an effect on revenue?
I don't think so. We're set on that. What it does do is we can't increase it. We're not going to be able to increase. There's been talk for us to increase the gas tax just to come in conformity with some other states. Well, if you're sitting at $3 and $4 gas, and then now we throw the 18 cents up to 25 or 30 cents, people are going to lose their minds. So I don't think the revenue will be offset. You'll have some revenue increases because of the severance taxes on oil and gas. So I mean, we'll make up a little bit there. But now, if people really shut down driving, yeah, it could happen. But I think the Mississippians, I mean, we're a rural state. We've got to drive. So we're not 5 miles from work every. A lot of truckers and so forth are going to need to put the miles up.
I was thinking about that last week when I saw a report and somebody on the left was saying, oh, well, you just need to use more green. You should bicycle to work. And I'm like, lady, it's 15 miles from my house to work. I ain't biking 15 miles one way.
We'd be doing a Zoom call if I had to bike here this morning, I promise you.
Better believe that. I would be on Zoom, too.